All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Money Revelation podcast. I don't even know what episode we're on actually right now. But I have a very special guest today. Season 2 was dedicated to finding great guests. Emily Burnett, another financial coach, author, soon to be double author, if we want to call it.
I like that.
So yeah, welcome to the show, Emily, and I can't wait for our conversation, but why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and everything else?
Cool. Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks, Brian. It's really fun to be here and to have this chat. I'm Emily Burnett. Like Brian mentioned, I'm working on becoming a double author. I like that way of putting it. Yeah, so I'll probably be using that in the future. So I left corporate. This is kind of a big part of my story about a year and a half ago, and went all in on creating my financial coaching business and traveling the world and figuring out what I wanted to be when I grew up. And still working on that. I think a lot of us are. I'm spending the winter in North Carolina in the Raleigh area. And I'm excited to talk with Brian about money revelations and all things that we have learned and like to share about money and intentional money.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was cool. I tell people about it a lot, how you kind of like traveled the country. I thought that was really cool. Just meeting people and like doing like little pop-ins and stuff like that. We
Mm-hmm.
had a nice sit down a handful of months ago, and we just
Mm-hmm.
talked about business and finances and like what people are, really running through right now. And I think that's changed a lot, even more in the last 6 months or
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Um, People are really looking forward to 2024, I think, because 23 was, I mean, you hear it all over the radio. It wasn't easy for people. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so today we just wanted to kind of talk about, we decided a couple of topics and, why money management even really matters and being more intentional with your money in 24 and beyond. But first, I wanted to say, if anyone sees this on visual, this is her book right here. And guys, I swear to God, I told her before, I did not set it up there. Literally, this is my desk here. I turned on the camera. I was setting my mic. I go, oh, her book is right there. Literally, it was sitting there on my shelf. So, but we'll
And
talk about that.
I thought Brian was just being nice.
No,
But
I
he like
swear to
pulled it
God,
out.
swear on my, swear
Yeah.
on my mama. But anyways, we'll talk about that as we weave through here a little bit
Cool.
about it. So let's just get in, and Emily, I'm going to let you lead the conversation, and then we'll kind of just discuss about why, I was thinking a lot about this for 24 and beyond, because people, I think, want to put 23 in the past a little bit, is money management. Why is it even really matter? And kind of why people seem to get money management wrong and like just
Mhm.
despise it, basically. So what did you want to jump in and talk about there on that?
Oh, how long do
I
we have?
know,
A couple
I know,
hours
I
for
know.
this?
Guys, we met for coffee like 6 months ago and we were like, wow, we just talked 2 hours straight. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
we just like Annie last month, we could sit here and talk forever. But I don't know,
Yeah.
just what do you think? I mean, what do you think? Let's just have a conversation.
Yeah. Well, first of all, my perspective. So the title of my book is Dear Fellow Spender. And the fellow is important. Yeah, thanks, Brian, holding it up. The fellow is really important to my story and to my perspectives on why money management really even matters, because I avoided it for a really long time. I mean, in the moment, it felt like I was doing it and it wasn't working. And I thought I was budgeting and I was trying to budget. And so yeah, I think like why happy money management matters is, say that 3 times fast.
Yeah.
Happy money management. Uh, you know, that is the type of money management that really matters, because the kind that is just like spinning in the mud, um, that's incredibly frustrating. And I think that's why so many people feel so negatively about money management or budgeting. Where my real passion lies is in the kind of daily money, or daily, weekly, monthly money management. It's the paycheck stuff. Um, there are so many pros that can help with investments and retirements and maximizing 403Bs. But what I get really jazzed is helping people get in the front seat of the bus in a happy way to really, really take care of their money from the root level. And that's not just so that you have more money. More money is great, but more money will not ever fix a money management problem.
Mhm.
So it really matters because what you do with your money determines what kind of life you get to lead and how happy you are with it. So across the spectrum, I've worked with people of all income levels, $27,000 a year, actually less than that, a grad student, and a guy who was spending $750,000 a year. And in both cases and across the spectrum, they wanted to feel something about their money management. They wanted to feel in control. And so I think, and I'd love, your response and thoughts on this, that the reason why money management really matters is because it is, it's the thing that dictates how you feel about yourself. It's one of those key behaviors that dictates how you feel about yourself. And again, the options you give yourself in your life. And that doesn't mean necessarily for like a bigger house, a boat, a fancier car, because you might not actually want those things.
Mm-hmm.
I'll pause because again, I could go off on a soapbox so long on
Yeah.
this.
No, I'll pitch in here. You said the word twice in your little spiel there. The word happy. No, I'm saying the word happy.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've seen a lot more the last year, I feel like, well, I thought of a good question like a month or so ago when I was just driving around one day. And this isn't necessarily someone's goal. It's like if I come to a client or a potential client or someone's talking to me about their finances, this is a tough question, I think. And right now, if I asked 100 people in a row,
Mm-hmm.
could you, not saying everyone wants a mortgage, but we'll use mortgage. Let's say they're renting and stuff. 100 people that are renting that want a mortgage. Today, if I was a mortgage lender and came up to you and said, hey, I'm ready to get you a mortgage, would you qualify for it with your debt to income? Would you have enough money to put it in your paycheck? And like, would you be ready for that? And I'm scared that, and I keep it real. So I'm scared that like 70% of people wouldn't be able to today, just based on what I'm seeing. And so
Oh yeah.
I think the biggest part about money management is looking at your soon to be, it doesn't need to be 10, 20 years down the road, but the next
Mm-hmm.
year or so, what are your goals? And if if you sit there and look in the mirror and say, I'm not hitting my goals, I'm in debt, I mean, that should be enough, I think, to say, man, I do need to manage my money better. A couple of my clients, I'll give one example of my clients. I don't know if they'll hear this or not, but that I'm working with right now. I think when he first met me with his wife, he had a realization that he had a spending problem and they both weren't budgeting at all. Most people don't budget, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But on top of that, in their opening calls, you could hear it in him saying, this, I don't remember what loan it was. She had to put in her name because I had so much debt in my name. And I
Mm-hmm.
think people are, especially couples, as I focus on couples now, is they're starting to realize I'm putting a lot more burden on my partner because of mistakes that I made, but then she's part of it or he's part of it as well,
Mm-hmm.
because whatever's yours is theirs usually, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
I think the word happy is key in that. It's like, well, if you're not happy or you
Mm-hmm.
can't be happy in the next year with your immediate goals, I think something's got to change. And obviously, you said most people loathe about money management because they're scared to open their bank account. They really are. They're scared to even look at their past 6 months. I mean, they just know that they're paycheck to paycheck. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's just, I mean, it's, you guys, it's stuff we see every day, not just as coaches, but anyone in the financial field is seeing it right now.
Yeah.
And it's, yeah, I mean, that's why it matters. I mean, you should worry about your immediate future and how you want to be happy.
Yeah.
And if you can't, if you can't be happy with where you're at right now and you're not happy, if you sit down and say you're not happy, well, then let's make you happy. Then let's do something about it. But I think people are just a little bit timid the last year about how many bad things happened to a lot of people in terms of financial, cars. I've talked to a few people that their cars the last few months have just like completely hit the bed, basically.
Mm.
But I don't
Well,
know.
and
I don't know. I mean, that's my thought process.
yeah, yeah. Well, and I think so. I work and talk with people who they might have actually they might already have the mortgage and the house that they really like, and they have a great paycheck. Um, but they're still not happy. And they are really afraid of, when you say debt to income, like that it just kind of causes stress because they're just kind of primed to feel guilty and ashamed about the spending they do to um, mask some of the dissatisfaction with life or with their financial situation. I've been there. I've done
Mm-hmm.
that. And I just think that there are so many shoulds in the personal finance space. You should be doing this, you shouldn't be doing that. And it has made a really large segment of the population very shame-filled about their
Mm-hmm.
money, and the thought that they could ever feel happy and in control and non-deprived about their spending is an absolute revelation to a lot of people. Um, I've had emails from readers of my book who are so grateful for a friendly, relatable, a little bit of tough love
Mm-hmm.
invitation to kind of wake up. And um, you know, I am a fan of long-term planning, but I think this is actually a really relevant time to talk about Moso, which is the name of the business that I'm
Yeah.
building. Moso Money. Um, Moso is a type of bamboo that grows slowly at first.
I had to look it
And
up about a
oh
year
yeah,
ago. I was
okay.
like, wait, I know that word. Sorry. I had to look it up, but go ahead.
No,
It's
you're
closed
cool. I'm
slowly
glad
at
you looked it
first. And
up.
then I was reading your book and I think you mentioned that. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, now I got to Google all of this.
Yeah. Well, and it is a little, I mean, it's not like super documented, like Moso bamboo is the only type of bamboo. I think this is true for all bamboos. I just
Mhm.
really liked the word Moso. Um, so it grows slowly at first, and that's because its roots are getting right. And
Mhm.
when the roots are grown and solid and stable, then it can start growing like several inches in a day, which is just really cool. And I love the parallels between that and what can happen in a person's life when they finally get the roots right, because so much of personal finance has become, and especially if you're middle age, you're like, oh, everybody else is focusing on retirement and investing and
Mhm.
um, getting the, I don't know, the vacation rental or,
Yeah.
these big things that are kind of markers of adult financial success.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, the root level stuff, the management of the paycheck, the making a plan to get out of debt so that you free up so
Mhm.
much of your monthly income is not happening. It's swept under the rug. And so again, I think the happiness in money comes at the root level and getting involved. And like you said, not focusing exclusively on 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, but focusing on what
So
you
now,
can make happen now and in the
mhm.
next year for the happiness of your life overall.
I love how you said that. I mean, that's in her book, guys, just saying. The Moso and all that stuff. But a couple thoughts on that. That's a great point of like building from the roots and eventually, kind of almost growing quicker as you go,
Yeah.
basically starting from the beginning. I think 2 points that I want to hit on. The first part that you were talking about not really, you didn't use the word shaming, but
Mhm.
I think you were kind of thinking that a little
Oh,
bit.
for
It's like
sure.
guys, with social media and technology, especially the last 5 years, 10 years, there is a lot of people that you could just sit in bed, right? I mean, my wife does it all the time, and sit in bed and just scroll and be like, oh, here's this person telling me, yep, yeah, that's me. I'm doing it wrong. And that's kind of what Emily was trying to say, I think, is like we see all this not hatred, but just like, nope, if you didn't do this, oh, you're 50 years old and you don't have
Yeah.
that. It's like, guys, not everyone's situation is the same and all that. And what I want to say to be encouraging that right now is I'm just thinking of some more of my recent clients is a lot of my clients, you guys, are 40-year-olds, 45, 55, little to no retirement. And I think like Emily was trying to say that kind of middle age and all that, that's like their first like, oh my God, I'm screwed on retirement. I'm screwed on retirement. I'm screwed on retirement. But realistically, come on backwards and you'll find the roots of everything else that is, and it can be achieved. Believe it or not, I'm working with people right now, you guys, that are 50 years old that have little to zero retirement, and we're going to make it work like down the road. But we have to set the as you said, the roots first.
Yeah. It's
Because
like a
they
foundation.
didn't manage their money, or they didn't have a budget. You guys, 80% of the people I talk to don't budget at all. I'm not just throwing that number out there. I don't know about Emily's clients or people she's bumped into, but 20% probably either have budgeted and tried or used to budget, haven't
Yeah.
budgeted in 3 to 5 years because this happened or this happened. But my point is, you got to start all over, and it can be done. You just
Yeah.
you gotta turn your mindset to, okay, I can't focus on 10 or 15 years down the road, my investment. I got to back up here because I have credit card debt. I have a car loan. And there's nothing wrong with this. I'm just, prioritizing. I don't have money management budgeting. Let's start from the bottom and then move up because it's achievable.
Yeah. And
People are showing that right now. People are showing me right now that they're going to be achieving, worrying about their wealth savings and everything like that in the coming months.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I would say like you want to, as opposed to like you need to focus on it's like that's where the peace and the happiness is, honestly. Yeah. It's at that foundation level. Like, because again, maybe you've tried to build a house without a foundation, a figurative house.
Yeah.
And that house is going to be so much more stable and awesome and enjoyable to live in if it's on a really great foundation. One other thought popped into my mind as you were talking. I think that over the last, I don't know, 70 years maybe, budgeting has become, well, yeah, a negative word, and we've kind of turned not budgeting into a status symbol. So people who make good money are like, oh yeah, I don't budget. I don't need to budget.
It's funny you wrote that. Unless I read it from you. Did you post?
No,
I was going to say somebody else. I just read this somewhere like 2 weeks ago. It's like, they don't believe they need to budget because they make enough money. So.
Right. And so people who do make lots of money, which one of my favorite stats that I don't have nailed down exactly, but it was like 62% of those full-time workers do not live paycheck to paycheck. And that's really kind of a staggering stat, as is the fact that like, I want to say 28% so it was more than a fourth of those making more than $200,000 a year live paycheck to paycheck. So it's not an income problem. And there isn't like an income level at which you can't be blessed by budgeting. And people will say like, oh, I have been blessed. I don't need to budget. And I'm like, well, but if you are choosing to live within your income and you are being mindful of your debt, I would argue that you are budgeting. So give yourself some credit and like, let's just normalize it.
Normalize it. Yeah. And I know any other coaches that hear this, and maybe we'll post this in our coaching group so we get some people there. I know people are going to agree with this statement, and you kind of just hit on it slightly. I have a client right now, or I've had a client in the past. We won't use names, but I know because we've seen it posted in our group, our coaching group, that makes over $200,000 and has a ridiculous amount of credit card debt, y'all. because
Mm,
they don't manage their money well. So like Emily said, it doesn't matter on that portion
mhm.
in terms of needing a budget or actually having some type of money management, because it comes back to money management and mindset.
Yeah.
Mindset.
Yeah.
Because when you sometimes you make that much money, you spend
Mhm.
carelessly and you think, oh, I just do it for my points credit cards and I pay it all off. But then all of a sudden this happens and then this happens and this happens. The next thing you know, you're at the end of the year and all of a sudden you're not paying those credit cards off every month. You're paying minimum balance or $200 here, $200 there, and now you're, stuck. And I think that people just are in such a rush
Yeah.
that they just like this year flew by. I was telling my clients the other day, you guys, in 2 months, it'll be 4 years since COVID started. I mean, think about that.
Wow.
That's
Yeah, that's wild.
insane. I
Yeah.
mean, it just flew by this last few years. And so I think taking a step back and really focusing on like the immediate future and realizing that, well, I do need some management help is not such a bad thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and as we're talking about this, Brian, I'm so I'm writing book number 2 to become
Yes,
the
let's
double
talk about
author.
it. Let's talk about
Yeah.
it.
Well, the book is called Dear Fellow Dreamer.
Ooh.
And it is so the pillars of my of
Amazon, real quick. Dear fellow
yeah.
spender,
Yeah.
I'm giving you promos right here.
Amazing.
You
Thanks,
guys, it's
Brian.
awesome. I read it a few months ago, so it's awesome.
Thank
So
you. Thanks. I
yeah,
appreciate that.
yeah.
Well, yeah, the Dear Fellow Dreamer is the follow-up because when I tell people the title of my book and they know what I've been building for the past several years, they're like, oh, cool. So money. And I'm like, it's about so much more than money. And
Hmm.
that is where my own financial and truly life transformation started, was being
Hmm.
like, I don't like this. I don't like my corporate job, but
Hmm.
it is not an option to leave.
Hmm.
And so what I ended up doing was a really good job of spending all of my paycheck from the
Yeah.
job I wasn't happy in. I have been an entrepreneur from the time I was a kid. Like the number of ideas that I scribble down on in my moleskin notebooks, like corporate. I mean, this is not at all to dog corporate. There is no shame in any work that generates income,
No.
honest work that generates income. But it was a real wake up call that, like, because of my previous spending and debt situation and
Hmm.
interaction and very close relationship with credit cards, I really couldn't walk away from that income level. And so, and I know I'm not alone.
Hmm.
I have had countless conversations where, working with one client, it was like 6 months in that she finally shared with me that she hated her job. And it was just this revelation for, I think, both of us, for her to say out loud, for me to hear, like, that is why her spending was like it was, that she was trying to outspend a life she wasn't happy with.
Yeah.
And so this book, Dear Fellow Dreamer, is really about intentional living, because it doesn't matter if you're making $200,000 a year and your soul is telling you, like, I'm in the wrong business. Like 40 years is a really long time to spend on the wrong path. So I think the real wake up is for someone to be like, to look at their life and say, I want something different. And that doesn't mean like
Yeah.
irresponsible behaviors, but it might mean I've always wanted to start my own business and it's never been an option because of my financial situation. Like it sounds trite to say that, like, your why has to become more clear, but I do think that by taking stock of your life and at least being willing to entertain, like, maybe I do really not enjoy my profession any longer.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to give myself options. That is why I want to redo my relationship with money in a happier way from the roots up.
Yeah. You spent in the first book. You learned your lesson. You talked
Yeah.
about it, and now
Yeah.
dreams are next. That's the purpose. You get everything organized, you guys, and then you got to have
Yeah.
dreams. It's kind of like, we'll kind of wrap this up, but because we could talk all day about this, but it goes back to my personal story of years and years ago when I met my wife. She just looked at me and said, "Listen, we got a house, we want 2 kids, you got 70K in student loans, that ain't gonna happen. I mean, we have dreams in the coming up, and we have to get rid of those, and we worked our butts off to get them off.
Cool.
But it's the same thing. It's like,
Yeah.
what dreams do you have coming up, and what's holding you back? That's the key.
Yeah.
Think about yourself. That's what more people got to think about, is just think about yourself. Like, and
Yeah.
maybe don't watch so much online.
Totally. Yeah, totally. Listen, like, check in with yourself instead of trying to keep up with everybody else. Because that is a never ending like circus. That'll keep a person making good money potentially, but absolutely broke, kind of inside and financially.
Stop comparing yourself to other people.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Kelsa, our mentor. Kelsa's always said that. Stop for us. Stop following certain coaches. Stop following certain people, because you're just going to sit there on your screen and compare yourself and say, I'm not there yet. And it just gets you down. It's the same with your money.
Oh, for sure. For sure. It'll get you like
depressed,
emotionally
literally
down and financially down.
Right. Because then you'll go out and say, oh my God, I got to go buy a coffee because I'm just so mad today, or something like that. Or could go out and do this and spend money. But yeah, totally. I like it. Well, I think we could talk all day, but we better wrap it up here. This was fun. I'm glad. I hope, this is helpful for a lot of people. I appreciate you coming on. And you guys, her second book, what's the goals of when the second book is maybe coming out? Is there a little teaser or? Oh, sure. Absolutely. Yeah. I've committed to publishing it by August. No. Wow. Yes, by August. Awesome. And that will mean I published my first book in July of 2023 and my second one in July of 2024. Wow. I know. I think it's a little aggressive, but there's more to the story. There's more to the story. Yeah, for sure. And so much of the story is honestly like written just in my own experiences and from conversations that I've had with hundreds of people as I've traveled and coached. And so the story just needs to come out. And that's what I'm working on now. And what's beautiful for readers, and I've made a dedication to myself in the last year or two, is some books it's gotta be like 320 pages or less, because I was reading 450. It's like, oh my God. And I want to read more. I want to read more books and get more knowledge this year. That's my goal. This first one's like 150 pages, you guys. It's really informative. Yeah. I mean, that's how I appreciate you for that, Emily. Well, thanks. It's great information. And you didn't, she didn't stretch it all out to, like, some people stretch out books to 250, 300 pages when you're like, oh, shoot, that's too much. Like, you guys could have ended this 20 minutes ago or something like that. But yeah, no kidding. Well, that book and this next book are meant to be a conversation, like a friendly conversation between me and the reader. And so thanks for highlighting that. That's awesome. Very cool. So where, I'm going to drop everything in the comments, like your Amazon, your book and everything like that, but where can people find you if they want to talk more to you about it? Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Brian. My website is mosomoney.com, MOSO money.com. I'm on Instagram, moso_money. And I'm on LinkedIn under my own name, Emily Burnett. So those are the three places those are the mains. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you for coming on today. And thanks so much for having me, Brian. Yeah, it was fun. Oh yeah, anytime. This is fun. So, yeah, that's it. I'll drop everything for her in the comments, you guys. And, yeah, we'll see you on the next episode. Stay blessed and positive, and have a good rest of the day.